In the matter of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, case number BA096.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
And we are live. Taylor, would you like to introduce us? I remembered that we have 2 introductions.
Yeah.
Are you impressed?
I'm super impressed.
Thank you.
Hello, friends and family. Welcome to Doomed to Fail. We are the podcast that brings you history's most notorious disasters and epic failures twice a week. And I am Taylor, joined by Fars. Fars, how are you?
I'm good. Guys, we really want to get rich and famous. Please, please, please tell your friends.
Please tell your friends.
Tell your friends,
Come
tell your family.
on.
Hey, you know what? The holiday season is coming up in only 6 months. Just go ahead and order some Doomed to Fail mugs.
Perfect pitch. It's exactly the right time to bring that up. Great.
I'm otherwise doing well, Taylor. It is a lovely day here in Austin, and I noticed that you are wearing your lovely Team USA Olympic sweater hoodie and looking very patriotic.
Thank you. Again, I don't want to be confused as someone who is endorsing what's going on in America right now, but I am endorsing our athletes personally.
Way to call that out.
And yeah, I just want to make that clear. And
what is going on in America right now?
just like the giant shit show that we're living in right now.
Did you see the
Perhaps.
memes that came out after the debate where it was like, "Hey, dear world, please stop watching this debate. This is our issue. We don't want you to pay attention." It was something really funny like that, but I don't remember exactly the words were.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple of months. But I am actually, speaking of America, did I tell you I'm going to the White House in a few weeks?
What?
Just for like the personal tour, like the civilian tour, nothing special, but like I had to email my congressperson, and then one of his interns had to like coordinate it with the White House, but we're going in like 2 weeks.
No way.
Is it
So
fun?
what, is this just like a family trip to DC?
Yeah, we're going to Annapolis, and we're gonna get like an Airbnb by like the water, and we're going to do that, and I'm gonna see my brother, and I'm gonna see my husband's family, and then I have to work, like I have to like be around for work, but I'm gonna take one day off, and we're gonna go to DC because I really want to take the kids to DC. I want them to like go to the museums and stuff. There's so much to do. It's gonna be gross and like very hot and humid, but um, but then I was like, why don't we go to the White House? I've never been, so I figured out how to get tickets, and I got us tickets, so I'm super excited.
You know, it's interesting because every time I go to DC, I always think to myself, why don't I actually act like a tourist and enjoy this?
Yeah.
And it was literally the last time was the first time I ever did. It was just by some fluke that somebody I was with knew somebody in Mike Johnson's office, and so they gave us like a tour of the speaker's office, and I was like, why? This
Cool.
is so cool. Like, why
Yeah.
haven't I never done it's so the grandeur of it's just really, really impressive. So that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very exciting. So you said that's 2 weeks from now, right?
Yeah.
Cool. 1 week you're in Annapolis?
Yep.
Nice. Nice. Fun little
Yeah.
trip.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we can go ahead and kick things off. I think you go first today.
I do. I do. I do. And I am ready. I was typing up to the minute as I am wont to do. So I am just coming off of doing all the Olympic stuff, which has been very stressful because it's just been terrible stories. And
I mean, some of it was good stories.
yeah, but like a lot of it was rough, you
Okay,
know.
fair.
And so I wanted to do something kind of dumb. And so I'm going to talk about one of the most famous prophets of all time. Um, can you think of a famous prophet?
Jesus, Buddha.
I mean, like someone who could see the future.
Nostradamus.
Yes.
Nice.
I'm going to talk about Nostradamus.
Very exciting.
Yeah. Um, and it's fun. You have to believe a lot of stuff for these things to be true. You know, you have to like really like separate yourself from reality to say if this is true. There's the History Channel is wild these days. So I was like watching
What
this
happened
history.
to the History Channel?
Jesus, it's
Like, what
unbelievable. Like, I was, like I'm watching these Nostradamus documentaries on the History Channel, and I'm like, what am I watching? These people are insane. Like they're just like, taking it and being like, this is all true, all these things, and they're like, it's a lot of dudes with like huge beards who like obviously are trying to look like Nostradamus as well. You know,
So pathetic.
it's so funny, and then like the stuff that the twisting you have to do in your mind to believe it is like some of them. Well, first of all, like they weren't written in English; they were written in French a long time ago. So it's like someone translated them and translated them and translated them. So and like I guess that's kind of similar to the Bible. Like you're reading like a 30 millionth translation, and like of course that's not exactly as intended. And they say things like, well, if you take this word in English, by the way, and take the first two letters, make them lowercase, flip them upside down, then George H. Bush is the Antichrist. And
I
I'm like,
Taylor, that is the exact episode I watched like decades ago. Because the
yes,
second you said the History Channel, there was something about the Twin Towers, and it was just
yes.
like
We'll talk
it.
about that too.
Okay, yeah, we'll go into it. But you're right. But my impression of all this is like it's like horoscope stuff. It's like
Exactly.
if you just extrapolate far enough out, anything is true.
Exactly. And I said, I think I wrote that down. It's just like astrology. You can make it apply to anyone or anything. And you're looking backwards, not forwards in most cases. I feel like the first time I really heard about Nostradamus was after September 11th, because there was that like fake one around where it was like two brothers will fall in the new city. But like
Yes,
that
yes.
wasn't real. That wasn't even like a real one. But like we'll talk about September 11th in a minute. So and again, also like if you use like you have to like use math and be like, oh, but if the ends are 10 and the eyes are a 7, like all that kind of stuff. And I think the last podcast they just interviewed someone who had spent a lot of time with BTK. And I don't know if you listened to that, but
No,
one thing like he would write like things for like the police to like decipher and things like that. But like if you have enough letters in something, you can spell anything, you know?
right, right,
It's like if you like what is it? The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog that has every letter in it.
right.
And so like if I wrote that down, I could predict literally anything because I have all the letters available to me.
Totally.
So so first let's talk about who Nostradamus was, and then we'll talk about some of his fun quatrains and things that we can talk about how he predicted things
What is a
from doing.
qualtrain? I remember that too.
Yeah, I'll tell you in a little bit.
Okay, we'll get
Okay.
to it.
So Michel de Nostradam was born in December 1503 in Provence, France. He was born into a Catholic family, but his family had just converted from Judaism. His dad's name was Crequois, and he changed it to Pierre no Nostradam. Nostradam means Our Lady, and that's exactly what I would change my name to if I wanted to be a fake French person.
Yeah, no kidding. What a cool name.
What is it? Oh, it's Pierre Notre Dame. Mwah, give me some cigarettes. You know.
Yeah,
So thank you. So he everyone brings it up that like his family had converted from Judaism to Catholicism, and I think they do it to imply that they had like some Old Testament beliefs still like when he was growing up, but maybe like a little bit more mystic than like the Catholics would have like been okay with. Um, he was one of nine children, possibly more. We don't know because people just like had babies and they died and all the things, but in a big family. When he was 14, he went to the University of Avignon, and that's just like getting, it's not like college, it's just getting like actual schooling, instead of being like taught at home and like reading books in your
right.
house, you're going to actual school. It was closed because of the plague. So he lives in like a rough time in
If I
Europe.
recall, it's considered the worst time in history to be alive.
Yeah. hmm So it sucks. And he spent some time kind of wandering around France, and he was actually kind of helpful against the plague. So it's kind of like how Rasputin kind of like backed into helping the kid because he was like, maybe the doctor should calm down with the bloodletting, and then the kid would like feel better, you know?
I thought you were going to go with how he was helpful to the royal family, and I was like, I think we totally misinterpreted his impact. But yes, he was helpful to the kid by
Yeah,
accident.
by accident, being like, well, tell the doctors to back off so they would stop giving him like aspirin and thinning his blood and he like would feel better, you know?
Right, right.
So, not aspirin, but you know what I mean. So he would do things like he saw sanitation as something that was maybe helpful. So I know that history is full of stories of people like laughing at people for washing their hands, you know? And there's always the guy who's like, maybe we should wash our hands before we're like wrist deep in this person's chest.
Right.
And like, and everybody's like, that's dumb. I'm going to spit on my hands and do it. Or like, I think we even talked at one point about how like women would die of infection because the hands the doctors were using to deliver their babies were gross. I know, both of our
I
faces
don't
right now.
I don't get like how humans were so filthy.
It seems pretty obvious to me that you don't want to be actively dirty, but I
This
don't know.
sounds probably perverted, but my head instantly goes to sex. I'm like, how did anybody have sex?
Yeah.
How did anybody
How
ever
many,
consider
did you
it?
just have like a constant UTI plus every other syphilis and every other disease? Everyone's just like gross and like, besides the dirt,
I mean,
there's
but
the diseases.
then again, they also didn't have like indoor plumbing. So if
Yeah.
you're smelling rivers of human shit down the street, then sure, your girlfriend smells fucking horrible or your boyfriend, but like it's probably better than what you're smelling outside. I don't know. I don't know how it
Yeah. I
works.
mean, I feel like if we went there, we'd be like, oh my God, I can't do this.
Yeah,
There's just like,
they probably think we're freaks because we're not covered in like
yeah.
slime.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I feel like if we went there, we'd be like, literally cannot breathe. This is so disgusting. But
Right.
like they would be like, this is normal, you know. Um, so he did things like, why don't we use clean water or start drinking clean water, guys? And maybe we should move this pile of rotting dead bodies.
Like burn him. He's a witch.
Exactly. He's like, maybe having a pile of dead people who just died of the plague next to this plague hospital isn't like the number one idea we've ever had,
Yeah.
you know? Um, So he was doing stuff like that. And so people were like, okay, he's actually helping. He also had a thing that he invented called rose pills, which was like a pill that you could take that had a lot of rose petals and some spices and sawdust for some reason, but it had a lot of vitamin C, and vitamin C fights infections. So that also like accidentally helped as
Nice.
well.
Makes sense.
It's like emergency. Like emergency isn't going to stop you from getting COVID, but it's not going to hurt you. You know, like
I
it
don't
helped
think
people.
emergency does anything for me.
I think it's
I
like,
think it's a placebo.
I think so too,
Okay,
but
we're on the same page.
similarly. Yeah, you know what I mean?
You all
So
heard it here first, people.
I think you heard it a long time ago on the news, but we're reiterating it.
Yes.
You did catch that. So he is traveling around and he gets a job as an apothecary, which is like a cool word for pharmacist, and he likes it. And he decides that he wants to be a doctor. So in 1529, he goes to the University of Montpelier. I said that and I was like, why did I write it like that? Because I know I want to say Montpelier. I'm so sorry. Uh, whatever, you know what I mean. Um, but because he had had a job as an apothecary, he got kicked out of the university because you weren't supposed to have had a job because the university was for people who had never had jobs. It was like more like a genteel place. And
Weird.
then also just having a job during college is my villain origin story because people were like said the bitchiest stuff to me about like having to have a job.
What did you do?
Like I just always had to have a job because I didn't have any money and my parents never were able to give me any money. And so I always had a job. And then like one of my bitch roommates, she was like, well, I take more classes than you and like blah, 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 and all this stuff. And I was like, well, I have to have a job.
What
You
was your
know,
job?
like I worked in an office. Like it wasn't, and then at one point I worked at a museum and at an office and I had this internship that I got all by myself that didn't pay. Like I was just like, I worked all the time. And like when I went to Italy, I'm gonna keep talking about this. This is like what I tell my therapist every time I get a new therapist. When I went to Italy, another one of my roommates was like, I was like, the first week I didn't have a job. And I was like, this is so nice not to have a job. I was like, guys, this is great. And she was like, yeah, but you have to have a job. And I was like, okay, fuck you. I know that. I know your parents giving you money just to fucking out in Italy and I have to get a job, but like, fuck you.
I was a bank teller. I was a drive-through
Really?
guy. Yeah, I was a Bank of America. I was a
Oh,
little bank teller. You'd come in and be like, "Hi, welcome to Bank of America. How can I help you?" You see so much weird shit doing that. Be like people who were like scamming people, people sending in. There were so many times when like somebody would send in like an ID to like cash a check, and I was like, "This is like an obviously fake ID. We are taking possession of this and calling the police." And then people just dart.
heal
It was
out.
really cool.
They have like a
Yeah.
dead body in the in the seat being like, he says it's fine.
Dude,
Like, oh,
somebody actually did die in the lobby. There was this old guy who had a ton of money and he always would come in and get scammed by some people. And one time he came to the lobby and he just sat there for like a while and then we noticed he wasn't moving and then he just smelled like urine
oh no.
and we're like, "Oh my God, he just died." And so they had to come remove him.
Wow. That's
This
your
has
villain
nothing to
origin
do with your
story.
Nostradamus story, but
No, I know. I'm just,
I also had to work during college, so I can
and I think it gives
empathize.
you character. Is part of my point.
Yeah, that's why
So
we're so
cute.
hardworking.
Yeah. Um, so anyway, he gets kicked out of the university, but he's fine. He's like doing other things. He goes back to being an apothecary. In 1531, he gets married. His wife's name is possibly Henriette. It's lost to history. They have two children, and they all die of the plague, which sucks. So his wife and his two kids die of the plague. He is imprisoned in 1538 during the Inquisition. So also the Inquisition's happening at this time, and for being a heretic, but they let him out. There's like something else going on that I can't exactly figure out what's going on. But anyway, in 1545, he marries a rich widow, which is the dream.
Amen. Still
And
working
they
on
have
that.
and they have six children. So he and those children are like generally fine. So he doesn't like need a job, but he has like hobbies and he starts to write. And one of the things that he does is kind of get into the occult, you know, you know. So he starts to do these like predictions and like talk about what could happen. And he writes a book called like an almanac, which is like kind of like a this is what's going to happen in the next year. Like every year he'll write an almanac. He wrote his first one in 1550. And again, like they are what you want them to be, you know, like you can read any horoscope or anything and make it apply to what you're doing. Um,
I don't agree with that because an almanac is supposed to be historical referential data for the future. Actually, I actually do use almanacs every now and then,
well,
and
that's
it
not kind of
is
he's not making like the farmer's almanac. He's making like a
okay, okay,
prediction one. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay.
I don't think he's using science or like
Got it.
weather data.
Got it.
What do
Okay.
you use? Do you use a farmer's almanac?
So there's no other way to like estimate what, for example, well, the way I use it is there's no other way to estimate what the predictable weather might look like a month in it, like months in advance, right? So the Weather Channel isn't going to provide that information. And so you go to an almanac and say, hey, like if I wanted to go on a trip to Scotland in
Fair,
September, what is it historically like there? It's like the only way you know is through an almanac.
totally. That's not what he was doing, but that makes sense that you would
Got
look
it.
that up.
Did I throw you off by saying I use an almanac? You
No,
looked very
I was
confused.
laughing. I'm like, do you use it for your crops? Like, what do you, what are you doing? But, but that totally makes sense.
There you go.
Um, so people loved this. This isn't in a vacuum. He's not the only person who's doing it. Like a little of it is like plagiarized, you know, but like or like translated from other languages, things like that. But people loved it. Um, again, it's a very hard time to be alive. Like this seems like a nice break to like read this and try to think about it.
Sure.
Um, someone said in one of those History Channel ones, I don't know if it's one you saw, that he would see things by looking into a bowl of water, like the Oracle at Delphi used to do,
I don't remember that.
which is hilarious because that's not what he did. He was also briefly imprisoned in 1561 because he didn't get a bishop's permission to publish his almanac, but he got let out. He like wasn't like the Inquisition kind of came after him, but they were like he could write about it as long as he wasn't like practicing magic, then he was okay. So he like didn't get inquisitioned as much
I
as
won't even go near it. Like why even
pissed
dabble
him off
with
a little bit.
yeah, why even be like close to an accusation during the Inquisition?
Totally. I think he's just trying to find something to do and like wants to be,
Worst time to be alive.
you know. Um, so he died in 1566 of gout and other things. He had about, in today's money, about $300,000 in assets, and he was able to like give that to his children. Um, it says that on his deathbed, his like secretary was like getting him ready for bed, and he left, and he said, as the guy was leaving, he said, "You will not see me alive at sunrise." And then he was dead in the morning, which seems fair. I feel like if you know you're gonna die, you know you're gonna die. I don't
Yeah,
think
I
that's
feel like
like
I'm gonna die a lot. Like, no,
you can say
wait,
that every
sorry.
day.
I don't feel like I'm gonna die, but like, I know when it's like, okay, bedtime is probably gonna be in about 2 hours because I already feel that like my eyes are getting heavy.
Yeah. So that's his life. But let's talk about his works. His big work is the prophecies, which is a collection of 942 quatrains. So quatrains are four-lined, like it's like not like a poem because it doesn't like this is terrible. It doesn't like rhyme or anything, but it like, it's like a four-line prediction. Each one is four lines. That's why it's a quatrain. Four.
Got it.
Okay. There are 942 over 10 centuries. So a century is just like a collection of 100 of them. One collection is 42 instead of 100. I don't know why, but that's why there's 942. He got here by like reading a lot. He loved ancient history. He loved like learning about like ancient gods. There's other predictions from like saints and things that he like copied. He copied some from other languages. So it's not all like brand new. He didn't make it all up, but he's kind of like amalgamating things. He makes it look like he made them all up,
Right.
basically. Another thing that he talks a lot about, he says things like Mars and Neptune and Jupiter. And then like on the History Channel, they're like, he's talking about colonizing Mars. And I'm like, I think he's talking about the ancient gods. Like, I don't think he was talking about the planet. But
Wait, what was he saying?
he says like Mars a lot, like Mars will rise. But he's talking about like the gods, not like the
Also,
planet.
you already said it translated like through multiple different
Yeah,
languages. So who even know? Like, do we even know that he actually said that?
good, great call, great call. Who knows? Some of the things he said that are like a little creepy is like he does some of his quatrains have things like giant metal beasts or like giant metal beasts will come out of the sea and they're like, well, it's definitely a submarine or like definitely a car or some sort of machine that like he didn't have the vocabulary to describe because he had never seen one before. But he was like, but if you saw it in his predictions, like how would you describe a submarine if you've never seen one before? You would call it a giant iron beast in the sea. Sure, you know,
Yeah,
stuff
I can
like
see
that.
that.
But let's look at some of the specific ones that people have attributed to things that have like actually happened. So during his lifetime, he was employed by Catherine de' Medici, who was married to the King of France, Henry the Second. And she, kind of, like a queen does, wanted to have someone to help like guide her and loved the magicness of it. So he, worked for her for a while, but he had written now I'm going to start reading these. He had written, "The young lion will overcome the older one. On the field of combat in a single battle, he will pierce his eyes through a golden cage. Two wounds made one, then he dies a cruel death." So he had like written that prediction, and that one did kind of come true. So Henry II in 1559, after this was written, did get stabbed in the eye in a joust through his like golden cage, which is his like mask. And he got stabbed in the eye and in the throat, so two wounds, and it took 10 days for him to die, which sounds fucking terrible. So that's like kind of happened.
Okay, but if you were actually able to predict things, just fucking say it.
No, I know.
I mean, that's the part of it where it goes back to the horoscope stuff. It's like, so why don't you just say that he was wearing a gold? This guy's gonna wear a golden helmet and get stabbed in the eye. Just say it.
Totally. No, totally. And then like it says they say that she had tried to tell him not to do this joust, and then he did it anyway. That reminds me of like in like I know you haven't seen Bill and Ted, but in like Bill and Ted and stuff where people go back in time and they like meet Abraham Lincoln, I'm like, you should tell him about the theater. Like you
Yeah,
should tell him.
no, you shouldn't. You should never change history.
You should save Abraham Lincoln.
We don't know what happens if you change history. Like, never change history.
I know you haven't read it, but Stephen King wrote 11/22/63, which is about JFK assassination and going back in time and stopping it. And after he stops it, spoiler alert, like the United States like gets like acquired by Canada, everyone's a communist, like all this stuff happens, because
I like how you stopped even asking me about books to read or films to watch. You're just like, yeah, I just know you don't know this.
I know you don't know it, but some people out there might have read it and it's good. Anyway, so there's that one that was during his lifetime. A fun one, I'm gonna see if you can guess what this one is about. It's something that we talked about in one of our episodes. Okay.
Okay, let's try it.
The blood of the just will be demanded of London. Burnt by fire in the year 66, the ancient lady will fall from her high place, and many of the same sect will be killed.
Come on, Taylor. Have some faith in me.
That one's pretty easy.
Okay, yeah, exactly. The
Uh,
Great Fire of London. Yes.
Indeed. Um, I mean, the ancient lady could be the city of London. People didn't die. Not a lot of people died, but like it happened in 1666. So, there's sixes in there. There's a lady.
Super
Um,
specific.
yeah. So I think that you also, this is probably in the History Channel doc that you saw, but the parts about the Antichrist, and we've talked about the Antichrist before, and we have, because um, of Emperor Nero. So Emperor Nero is supposed to be what the Antichrist looks like, but I also obviously like don't believe that that's true. And I follow this person on Instagram who has a Dan McClellan who has a podcast called Data Over Dogma where he's like a scholarly he's like a PhD in like the Bible and he like talks about the translations and things like that. And one thing that he says is like there's a really no antichrist in the Bible. It refers to someone who like denies Christ, which is like me. Like I'm an antichrist if that's the way that is.
You heard it here
It's like
first. Taylor is the Antichrist.
not the, but ah. But so like
A.
there isn't one, it's not a thing. But um they say that Nostradamus predicted three antichrists. So the first two have already happened, and the third one has yet to happen. Can you think of who might the first one be? Oh, I can read it. I can read you the thing about it if you don't know.
I only know that they call George W. Bush the Antichrist, the guy who literally just like paints
Flip.
watercolors all day.
If you take this word and you took the first two letters, make them lowercase, flip them upside down, and then squint, it kind of looks like George Bush.
Our politics is so insane. Like everyone is the Antichrist. They said that about Obama. They called Obama the Antichrist. Like,
I know.
what did he
And there,
do? What did he do? He wore a tan suit one day. Like
at one time, never forget.
never forget.
Um, okay, I'm going to read it to you, and you tell me who you
Okay.
think the first one was.
Yeah.
An emperor will be born near Italy, who will cost the empire very dearly. They will say when they see his allies that he is less a prince than a butcher.
Um. Yeah, that's Nero.
No, that's Napoleon.
Oh. Well, he said near Italy.
Yeah, he was born in Corsica.
Oh
Remember?
shit, that's right. That's right.
Not in Italy, but like the island next to Italy. Um, so, he could be a butcher because a lot of people died. Totally fair. Um, there's one about in the same time, the French Revolution. So this is not the Antichrist, but just like keeping us in the right timeline. For the French Revolution, there's from the enslaved populace songs, chants, and demands, while princes and lords are held captive in prisons. These will in the future by headless idiots be received as divine prayers. So like that's true. Everyone got the head chopped off.
Taylor, I'm gonna give you one right now, okay?
Hmm.
A man will be born of Eurasian descent who will start a war that is great.
That's only three lines, so I don't believe it.
Sure. And then fast forward 800 years, and I will certainly be right.
Okay, you want to hear the second Antichrist?
That's it's
Ready?
ridiculous. Yeah, go ahead.
From the depths of the west of Europe, a young child will be born of poor people. He who by his tongue will seduce a great troop, his
Adolf
fame will
Hitler.
increase towards the realm of the East. Yes, great job. So he was born in Europe. He was poor. He's very good at speaking, and the realms of the East is like Japan. So obviously, we know that the Nazis loved the occult and they were like doing all this like weird shit in the background, trying to like prove that they were like destined for all of this. And guess who fucking loved this? Frau Goebbels, Mrs. Goebbels. She's the worst. I know you just watched the movie. Was it Dead? What's it called?
Downfall.
Downfall. I know you just watched Downfall. Frau Goebbels is out of her fucking mind, obviously. But she's reading this stuff and she's like, "Oh my God, Hitler, I think it's you." Like, girl, calm down.
I mean,
What?
she might be the scariest one out of all of them.
She's just what a fucking character. Um, so there's another one that says beasts ferocious with hunger will cross the rivers. The greater part of the battlefield will be against Hister. Into a cage of iron will the great one be drawn when the child of Germany observes nothing. So that's saying like Hister basically means like the Danube River and like Germany. It's not doesn't mean Hitler, but like and it's also translated 1,000 times. But there's like the cage of iron could be his bunker, because if Nostradamus had never seen a bunker, that's maybe what he would think it was. So that's how people do it. So I know you're like, who could the third one be? Was it Obama? Was it George W. Bush? There's a bunch of stuff that's like a tyrant and burning and all these things. So there's another one that like maybe he's with us right now. But if we're going by looks and we're saying the Antichrist is supposed to look like Nero, who is like dopey and
Putin.
has a, in fact, oh no, I was gonna say it's Eric Trump. Out of any of the Trumps, he's the dopiest one.
Poor Eric. Poor, poor unlovable Eric.
Exactly.
It's like
Um,
Tiffany is also in that category, but she also seems like she doesn't give a shit.
yeah, she doesn't give a
Eric is
shit.
the one that's like, why can't I be the cool one?
I feel like he's like texting like a fake number, being like, "Daddy, I love you."
Like, did someone
Maybe he
give Eric?
pays someone to be like, I'm so proud of you, son.
Donald's like, did someone give my number to Eric?
So there's one about, oh, let me read you this one, okay? Near the gates within two cities, there will be scourges, the like of which was never seen. Famine will within plague, people put out by steel, crying to the great immortal God for relief. That's atomic bombs, Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
Sure.
September 11th, there's
What's going
earth-shaking
on?
fire from the center of the earth will cause tremors around the new city. Two great rocks will war for a long time. Then Arethusa will redden a new river. I don't know what that means. Anyway, two great rocks, new city, New York, potentially that. So,
No, it was something else. It was something like you said it earlier. It was like two brothers.
but that's not real. That wasn't a real one.
Okay, so the History Channel is just making shit up out of whole cloth then.
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay.
Yes. And there's like a bunch of fake ones that are like, oh, that seems like really close to being like real. And you're like, yeah, it's a little too much. So there's like fake ones around. I got all of them from this like wonderful website called Crystal Links, which is from a psychic in New York. And for some reason, her website lists all of the Nostradamus' quatrains, and it has a live monitor of earthquakes around the world and talks a lot about the end of the world. So it's a whole deal. But um, people you can interpret them however they want. A couple that are coming up that like people are using to potentially predict the future. There's one about like people say is about King Charles. So it goes, for not wishing to consent to divorce, which then afterwards will be recognized as unworthy, the King of the Isles will be driven out by force. In his place, put one who will have no mark of a king. The people are like, maybe that means that Prince Harry is going to come back and be king. Made me laugh hysterically. Kind of like remember King Ralph? It was like a movie with John, what's his name from Roseanne, and there was like the royal family was taking a picture and then they all got electrocuted because there was like it was raining and so he was going to be king. He was like the 100th in line and he had to be go to Europe and be the king. So that's one that seems fun. We're also very sick of the monarchy, so like that could end. I'd be down for that. And then here's one more about climate change. It says, for 40 years, the rainbow will not be seen. For 40 years, it will be seen every day. The dry earth will grow more parched. There will be great floods when it is seen. So, like, yeah, weather's fucking crazy right now. So, you
So
know.
this is all bringing back a very, very distant memory for me. So when I was in college, I had a roommate who was like this, like he was a very, very sweet guy, came up super religious, and one day he asked me to like go to this like church thing that was in like a conference hall in a hotel, like a Holiday Inn or something. And so
Hmm.
I go there and we realize this is one of those like doomsday pastor situations where it's just blood
Mm-hmm.
and fire and just all that brimstone. The whole place is packed. And we walk in. I'm literally the only non-white person there. And we
Hmm.
walk in. And also he had painted toenails. He was wearing sandals. He had painted toenails because his girlfriend, they got drunk the night before and she painted his toenails. And so we walk in like everybody's just staring at us. And he was quoting Nostradamus in his like brimstone, but he was applying it all to that moment in time.
Uh-huh.
And that's I just had a flashback to that exact moment. We ended up getting up after 10 minutes and walking away, and it was really, really awkward.
So wait, he left your friend with you?
No, no, me and him, we both got up and walked out. We were like, we can't, we don't, this is not what we thought it was.
Yeah.
He thought he was taking me to something that was going to be like more wholesome and like, hey, look,
Mm,
like Christians, like we're actually kind of a cool bunch. And I was like, yeah, sure, let's see what this is all about. And then we go into this and I was like, these people are fucking scary. Like they're like
yeah.
really, really scary. And what's even scarier is that they think they're not scary.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That also reminds me, I have read Dan Carlin's book, The End is Always Near, several times because it's like all about times in history where people thought that the world was ending, you
Yeah.
know, and you can
Yeah.
do that. Um, there is a new Nostradamus in India. Someone who there's tons of these, but this particular person, he said that we're on the brink of World War III, and I'm like, no shit, Sherlock. I can say that too.
Yeah.
The world's getting hotter. People are going crazy. Things are nuts. Sure. Happy, and that could apply to like literally any time at all. And also, it can mean anything, which is what makes it fun, and I think what makes it enduring. And I think that's also what Nostradamus wanted is to be like vague and you know, fun, kind of fun. So I'll end with he wrote a letter to a chancellor in France in 1566 before he died, and he talked about some of his prophecies, and then he said, "quote Not that I'm foolish enough to claim to be a prophet," which is fun.
Oh, so he kind of knew that he kind of predicted that this is what he would be. I mean, that's kind of good. He predicted what we would think of him,
Yeah. Yeah, which is
which is kind
fun.
of cool.
Now I believe. Now I believe. And then I also wrote one for us. You ready?
Yes.
Upon the airwaves, voices strong will sail. From depths of despair, tales of trials unveil. Listeners gathered from distant realms hail. Doomed to fail, shall in success prevail. I didn't write that. ChatGPT did.
I knew ChatGPT. As you were saying it, I was literally trying to open ChatGPT to type in the command. That's pretty good though.
But
That's
I got
pretty
that.
good.
I got that for us. Um,
I
yeah,
love
it's
it.
it's super fun. It's fun to like just like read through all of them and find one random one. Let me just do one more random one. Meow. Stop. Nephew and blood of the new saint come. Through the surname he will sustain arches and roof. They will be driven out, put to death, chased nude into red and black. They will convert their green. I don't know, maybe that's about soccer and
Uh,
and streaking.
why has there never been like a good movie made about Nostradamus? Because he doesn't do anything, right? Because all he does is write. So what are you gonna do? Just follow him around, see him writing? Like,
Right. Because there's no like, because there is like a book that I didn't have a chance to read that is like an actual biography, but it's hard to find. Like, I watched several YouTube videos before I found one that actually felt like it was telling me the truth, like things about what had happened. Because all like, there's so many that are like, dun dun dun, dun dun dun, fire, brimstone, and then
yeah.
like, but I'm like, I do also want to know like when he was born and like his family life. So he was just like a dude who was like kind of rich, hanging out, writing these prophecies, having a good time, lived in a little city in France. You can
He
go to
wasn't
his
having a
house.
good time. He grew up during the plague. He watched
He's having the
everybody die
best time
around him.
possible. He didn't die of
Okay,
the
yeah,
plague.
sure, sure. He
You know
was
what I
having the
mean?
best time possible. Wait, how old was he
Yes.
when he died?
In his 60s.
Oh, good
You
for
know,
him.
yeah. Washing his hands, being like, fuck you guys.
Wait, he goes, hold on. The nearest sun, 5 and 40 degrees, the sky shall burn, to the great new city shall the fire draw nigh. With vehemence the flames shall spread and churn, when with the Normans they conclusions try. Okay. Anyways, very cool, very cool. Learned something. You brought back some fun memories for me,
Yeah.
so that I really, really enjoyed that.
Thanks.
Is there anything you want to say as we sign off?
Yeah. So, well, I do want to thank our friend Nadine. She wrote us a really thoughtful email about our own fire and brimstone, the world is ending, what are we going to do situation, and how we're talking about like the political climate, and it's very stressful, but also life has always been stressful. So you just try to like
Guys, just
make
chill.
make it through.
Just
Yeah,
chill. Everybody
yeah,
chill. Like I know. It is existential. If this guy wins, it's horrible. If that guy wins, it's horrible. It's all horrible. Like it's gonna be fine. Like
we're gonna be
we will
fine.
eventually. There's enough systems in place to make everything kind of work. I
And this
think.
has always happened. I mean, whatever or not, who cares?
Yeah. Who cares?
That's
Like
fair.
also, who cares? Like imagine being like a newlywed couple in like Germany trying to just live your life in the 1940s. Like cool. Like now we're in a war zone and my
Hmm.
husband is sent to the bat. Like things happen and we just always move on from it. So it's gonna be fine.
Yeah. You know, do your best, but it's fine.
There you go.
Yes, and if you have any, thank you so much, Nadine. I really appreciated your chatting with you this week. And then yeah, if you have anything else you want to tell us, any ideas you want us to talk about, we're at doomtofailpod@gmail.com, doomtofailpod on all the socials. I like almost think I'm gonna quit TikTok because I like paid for a advertisement, like just like was like, oh no, let me see what might happen. And then we got like a ton of views. And then after that, we've gotten zero views. And I looked that up and it's like a thing that they do. Like once you pay once, they want you to pay a million times. And I'm like, well, I shouldn't have done that, but I
I
don't
think
think so.
everybody should quit TikTok. Nobody thinks it's weird that it's a Chinese company. Like,
No, I don't
why
think
are
it's
we
weird.
doing this?
Everything is, I mean, no like safe data, whatever. Um, anyway, the best way to share a podcast is to tell your friends. So please tell your friends.
Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your loved ones, download the podcast on their phones without telling them
Yeah, while they're sleeping.
while they're sleeping.
You can use their face while they're sleeping
Yeah,
to
get
open
your
their phone.
spout. Like, just find a way. Anyway, we should all just have our loved ones' passcodes so we can spy on them anyways. So this is a
Hmm.
really good way to utilize that spying technology.
Perfect.
Great.
Great idea.
Don't listen to me. Cool, Taylor. We'll
Cool.
go ahead and
Thank
sign
you.
off then. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.